Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. My name's Ron Tyler. We're coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. I want to welcome you here to our program tonight. This is a program that I really want to talk to you about tonight because there are a lot of things going on and a lot of people got killed and injured during this past week and a half because of not hurricanes, but tornadoes and violent storms. I want to discuss emergency preparedness for violent storms and tornadoes tonight. That's going to be our main focus. But first, before we get into that, there's some things we need to talk about as well. Okay? We've talked about earthquakes. We've talked about floods. We're going to be talking more about earthquakes tonight, right now. Okay? Be advised, this is going to be a program that everybody here is going to want to watch. You're going to want to be part of this. This season has just barely started. This tornado and flash flood rainy season has just started, and yet within the next 2 weeks, we're going to be beginning hurricane season. We're going to talk more and more about hurricanes. The other day I showed you a list of hurricanes that are going to hit. That's a fact. That's a fact. But I want to make sure you're ready for whatever is happening. Hurricanes also spin off tornadoes, violent storms. They wreak havoc with our infrastructure. They wreak havoc with our neighborhoods. They wreak havoc with our lives. I want to make sure you're prepared for whatever's going to happen. That's my primary focus tonight. We've talked about this before, but I'm going to go in depth into what this means for each one of us. Okay? I want to make sure you understand what's going on. Okay? I want to make sure you know what's going on. Now, we've talked about floods and rain. What happens? Rain comes down, and we are going to get hit with heavy rain as well. We're going to talk about rain and flooding another time. Tonight, yes, with these storms, you will get some rain. You might get some heavy rain. But these storms bring tornadoes. They bring violent weather. High winds that destroy property, destroy homes, and destroy lives. Now, I've done an in-depth study. I've been talking about this for quite some time. But tonight I want to emphasize what's going on. I want to make sure everybody's ready for whatever's going to happen. Okay? That's my primary focus with tonight's show. Now, why is this so important? Why do you think this is important? We've seen a lot of people killed during this past week and a half. I want to try to figure out how we can be more benevolent, number one. Number two, cognizant of what we can do to save our lives and help our neighbors as well. That's where we're going to focus tonight. I first want to talk about these storms. Thunderstorms, tornadoes, and lightning. Right here. Thunderstorms, tornadoes, and lightning. This is the primary killer of human beings. Thunderstorms, tornadoes, and lightning. Okay? I hate to say it, folks, but this is it. This is it. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? This show tonight is about tornado preparedness and tornado planning. Again, we see tornadoes spinning off from hurricanes. Within the next week or so, we're going to try to primarily talk about hurricane planning and hurricane preparedness. This is tornado season. Tornadoes are nature's most violent storms. Thunderstorms, tornadoes, and lightning kill thousands of people each year. For Americans, preparedness must now account for man-made disasters as well. Man-made disasters as well as the natural ones. Knowing what to do during an emergency is a very important part of being prepared, and it may make all the difference when seconds count. Some of the things you can do to prepare for the unexpected. This is important. Make an emergency preparedness kit. How many times have we talked about making an emergency preparedness kit? We talk about it all the time, don't we? I'm not going to delve into the specifics of emergency preparedness kits tonight. I'm not going to go there. But what I'm going to do is go through everything we can to understand what these storms do, to make sure we can survive them. That's our focus. Preparing for the storm and the unexpected parts of the storms, making that emergency preparedness kit. Now, I would dare say that only 25% of the people here tonight on our program have a preparedness kit. Why do I say that? Back in 2014, some 11 years ago, FEMA sent out a survey with one question. FEMA sent out a survey to all emergency managers around the United States of America. There was one question. How many emergency managers around this country had a preparedness kit? A 72-hour kit. It was found out about 2 weeks later. FEMA came forward and said only 25% of emergency managers had a preparedness kit. That's why I'm saying I've been preaching this for 6 years now. 6 years now. Folks, when 25% of the people have a preparedness kit, that's a fail. That's a fail. If you don't have a preparedness kit, you're not likely to survive any kind of emergency at all. You need to plan for this. You need to plan for this. You need to have an emergency preparedness kit, and you also, as I have told you before, you need to develop an emergency preparedness plan. Okay? Now, these things I'm suggesting right now are essential not just for a natural disaster, but also a man-made emergency as well. The preparedness guide I'm going to go through with you and discuss tonight explains thunderstorms and the related hazards and suggestions for life-saving actions that each one of us can take. With this information, you can recognize severe weather, that's important, and develop a plan and be able to act, not react. Develop a plan and be ready to act when a threatening weather system approaches. That's what's important. Remember, your safety and the safety of those that you care about and that care about you is up to you. The safety of those you love and the people that love you is up to you. Each one of us individually. It's up to us. Surgery's here in the chat tonight. He says that another important fact is in our kits, and we need to practice with our kids as well. Surgery is absolutely 100% correct. We need to practice what we preach. We need to practice what we preach. Now, I'm very concerned that nobody's paying attention. I am very concerned that nobody is paying attention. Why do we have to worry about thunderstorms? Lightning. Lightning, of all things. Guess what, guys? Lightning kills 55 to 60 people every year and injures another 400 people. That means over 450, 460 people are either killed or injured every year. And we can do something about that. I believe we can do something about that. We must do that. All I'm saying tonight is we must do that. Already on this past Friday, on Friday alone, 35 people were killed in Kentucky. 35 people were killed in Kentucky from lightning and tornadoes. 35 people. That also does not account for what else is going on. Because lightning destroys people and it destroys property. Some people are uninsured. Some people cannot get insurance for that. But lightning costs over $1 billion in insured losses each year. Tornadoes. Tornadoes cause an average of 60 to 65 fatalities and 1,500 injuries per year. Tornadoes. Tornadoes of all things. Folks, we need to be prepared. We need to be prepared. Because if we're not, we're gone. If we're not prepared, we're gone. I don't want to be accounted for gone. I don't want to. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's necessary at all. We can survive most things. We can survive most things, such as this kind of tornado. This is called a weak tornado or a rope tornado. A rope tornado. Rope tornadoes don't hardly cause any damage at all. They don't cause much damage at all. They rarely ever kill anybody. These are usually EF1 or EF0 tornadoes. Okay? Tornadoes on all kinds of tornadoes itself, from weak to strong to deadly tornadoes, can produce wind speeds of up to and exceeding 200 miles per hour. It is no wonder that tornadoes kill people and injure people. When we've talked about tornadoes before, I put the word out. Make sure you're indoors. Make sure you're indoors in the center of your home or a basement. Why? Because when we have extreme winds, either inline winds that are blowing straight away across the land, or tornadoes that come down and pick things up and throw them at us. Folks, I saw a 2x4, a 6-foot 2x4, thrown into a wall of a home. The straight line winds picked up that 2x4 and put it through the side of a home. Could it possibly have occurred when a home was made of brick? Yes. Yes. Why? Because of the speed of the wind. The velocity of the wind picks that sucker up and tosses it. That 2x4 could have smashed into a brick and forced the brick through the wall. That's how strong those winds are. That's how strong those winds are. I've seen it, guys. I've seen it. I've seen fences picked up and ran through homes, ran through roofs. I've seen roofs picked up from homes and thrown all over the landscape. A home in Kentucky this past Friday was picked up, traveled 1 mile across the land in the tornado, and dropped on the landscape after the tornado starts losing steam. Needless to say, the home was destroyed. The home was destroyed, but the occupants survived. The occupants survived. Only the husband received some kind of injury. He received a gash in his forehead that was about 3 inches long. He had to have some stitches to sew that up. That's what happened with these tornadoes. Tornadoes can be up to 1 mile or more wide. Tornadoes can also stay on the ground over 50 miles. 50 miles. Think about that. 50 miles. We've seen that happen already this year. We saw it happen many times last year. Now, a few minutes ago, I mentioned straight line winds. Winds that are blowing straight across the landscape. Those straight line winds have been known to exceed 125 miles per hour. When I used to live in Littleton, Colorado, southwest of Denver, we saw straight winds there upwards of 120 miles per hour. I saw trash cans full of trash being blown across lawns, being blown down the road, scattering the trash as the trash can pulled down the road. I've seen cars damaged. I've seen cars being rocked by the wind. Rocked by the wind, doing this number. Straight line winds can also cause destruction equal to a tornado. Straight line winds can exceed and cause destruction equal to a tornado or greater. Straight line winds are extremely dangerous to aviation. Absolutely they are. I've also seen airliners overturned by straight line winds. I've seen small planes, Piper Cherokees and such, being picked up by the straight line winds and thrown into hangars. Yeah. Now, I want to talk for a minute about flash floods and flooding. I'm not going to continue talking about it all night long. I could, but that's a topic for another day. Roguefish N is here in the chat saying he's here, stopping by to say hi, and he's probably not going to just stay. I wish you could. Roguefish N is a very dear friend of mine. But flash floods and flooding. Flash floods and flooding are the #1 cause of death associated with thunderstorms. More than 90 fatalities each year are a result of flooding. Hail. I wish I'd thought to get a screenshot of one of my own friends in Oklahoma holding a great big huge softball-sized hail in her hand. Yeah. Softball-sized hail. Larger than a softball. 5 inches in diameter. No joke. No joke. Sweet Polly Purebred is here in the chat. We definitely need to take these storms seriously. People in Kentucky are lucky. Some survived and some did not. A lot of people died. That's why we're talking about it now. Hail causes more than $1 billion in damage to crops and property damage each year. I had a golf ball-sized piece of hail penetrate the window of my pickup truck back when I lived in Littleton, Colorado. A golf ball piece of hail hit my windshield and shattered it. Shattered it in a million pieces. Hail causes $1 billion in damage to crops and property each year. Let's get back to thunderstorms now. I want to spend tonight primarily talking about thunderstorms and tornadoes. A thunderstorm affects a relatively small area when compared to a hurricane or a winter storm. The typical thunderstorm is 15 miles in diameter, and it lasts an average of 30 minutes. But despite their small size, all thunderstorms are dangerous. Of the estimated 100,000 thunderstorms, estimated 100,000 thunderstorms that occur each year in the United States, about 10% are classified as severe. 10,000 thunderstorms a year are classified as severe. Think about that one for a minute. Think about that for a minute. 10,000 thunderstorms a year are classified as severe. I've said that 3 times now. I've said that 3 times. I think this is something we need to remember. Alan Newton is here in the chat saying hurricanes are basically mini bands of thunderstorms. You're right. And in the coming weeks, we're going to talk about hurricanes. Hurricane Heather is here in our chat tonight. She's also a very, very dear friend of mine. She's also a storm researcher, and she's very good at it. I may try to talk her into coming on the air with us to talk about storms. She's our resident expert here. She may also send me information that she wants me to talk about. Okay? But folks, this is important. What are we doing here tonight? We're here tonight to talk about these storms to try to save some lives. That's what we do on Emergency Management Associates. We try to talk about these things so we can save some lives. Primarily. All thunderstorms are dangerous. All thunderstorms are dangerous. Now I'm going to ask a question of you. What are thunderstorms? What causes them? Let's talk about that for a minute. I think this also needs to be talked about so everybody knows this. Because if you know the information, you're more likely to perceive what is going on and maybe even forecast it yourself. If you know what's going on around you, you'll understand what's going to happen. And maybe, just maybe, by having that information, we can save some lives. Every thunderstorm needs several things here. Number one, moisture. Number one, moisture form clouds and rain. 2, unstable air. Unstable air is warm air that can rise rapidly. Warm air from the surface on the earth where we're walking right now. Warm air that rises rapidly. It also needs lift. Thunderstorms and tornadoes need lift. Lift is caused by cold or warm fronts, sea breezes. Lift is caused by cold or warm fronts and sea breezes that meets with another front. A cold front and a warm front. A low pressure system and a high pressure system. Lift is caused by cold or warm fronts, sea breezes, even around mountains with the sun's heat, and even plasma radiation. Why plasma radiation? Plasma radiation can come through our atmosphere. It heats up the atmosphere, doesn't it? It also heats up the surface of the earth and the plates and the earthquake faults, causing earthquakes. But plasma radiation causes heat. That heat also can cause lift. Okay? Now let's talk about tornadoes. You notice I get a little bit worked up. That's because so many people got killed this past week. Unreal. Linda Covington says, boy, got enough of that today. I can imagine. The storms went past North Carolina. We did get some heavy rain last night during the night, but most of the thunderstorms died out before they got here to Morganton. We got some rain, which we needed. The thunderstorms have left the area for at least several days, through at least the weekend. It's supposed to be nice. But other places are not going to be that lucky. Let's talk about tornadoes now. Although tornadoes occur in many parts of the world, they are found most frequently in the United States. Most frequently in the United States. In an average year, 1,200 tornadoes can form. 1,200 tornadoes can cause 60 to 65 fatalities. 60 to 65 fatalities every storm. 1,500 injuries nationwide. 1,500 injuries nationwide. We've seen that happen. Unfortunately, we've seen that happen too much. Way, way too much. What is a tornado? I've got a tornado pictured here on our program. This is called a rope tornado. This is the weakest of tornadoes. Rope tornado is basically an EF0, EF1 tornado. Very little happens here. Very little happens here with this tornado. But what I'm going to discuss now is happening all too frequently. Very strong storms. Very strong storms here. Let's talk about this. This kind of storm. Notice the storm when it's on the ground. Look at what it's kicking up. Look what's kicking up with the EF1 storm. See the bottom of this storm when it hits the ground? When it hits the ground, it picks up rock, dirt, pieces of wood, other kinds of debris. What happens when this happens? What do we see when this happens? Let me show you something else. I want to show you this. Look at this. As I've said before, when we've shown you storms on radar, the orangish and yellow area are the thunderstorms. The orangish and red area are the most dangerous. The yellow area is just an outlying storm. It can be dangerous, but the red and orange areas are the most dangerous. But look here at the bottom of this slide here on the left. Look at that. That's called a hook echo. When we see a hook echo on radar, what does it mean? That simply means this, that the tornadoes hit the ground and it's forming a huge dirt ball, a debris ball here on the ground. That's what the hook echo is. The thunderstorm tornado has hit the ground and has picked up debris. That's what we're seeing here. This is exactly what we're seeing. A tornado is a violently rotating column of air. A violently rotating column of air extending from a cumuliform cloud, such as a thunderstorm, and reaches to the ground. Now, we've seen tornadoes up in the air. At least I have. We've seen the tornado swirling in the air like this. When they come down out of the cloud and come down to the earth, that's when we have real problems, right? Absolutely. A tornado is a violently rotating column of air. Tornadoes may appear nearly transparent until they hit the dust and debris. Sometimes they look transparent, as this rope tornado on the left is, until it hits the ground and picks up the dirt and debris. Okay? Tornadoes are picked up from a cloud form within the funnel. The cloud forms within the funnel. The average tornado moves from southwest to northeast. Remember this. A tornado moves from southwest to northeast, but tornadoes can move in any direction. The average tornado moves from southwest to northeast. That's a good piece of information. Because if we are in a tornado warning area and we're sitting in front of our television and we know that the storm moves from southwest to northeast, if we are on the southwest side of the storm, the tornado is moving to the northeast, more than likely we're not going to be hit with that tornado. But if you are on the northeast side, there's a very good chance of getting hit by that tornado. But tornadoes can move in any direction. Tornadoes can move in any direction. And they can also suddenly change directions of motion. They've been known suddenly to change directions of motion. Unreal, huh? The average forward speed of a tornado is 30 miles per hour. But this may vary. This may vary, guys. This past weekend, we saw one tornado that was moving at 50 miles per hour across the ground. One tornado was moving at 50 miles per hour across the ground. Hurricane Heather says a tornado can turn on a dime at any time. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And yes, Polly, it's insane. It's literally insane. I've seen this happen. I've lived in Tornado Alley for part of my life. We lived in Fargo, North Dakota. It used to be part of Tornado Alley. Fargo, North Dakota in 1967 got hit by a tornado in the downtown area of Fargo and destroyed the downtown area. It happened just months before I got there. My family moved us to Fargo when I was about 14 years of age. 14. They moved us to there before or after this tornado hit. After that tornado destroyed parts of Fargo. The strongest tornadoes are rotating winds of more than 200 miles per hour. More than 200 miles per hour. Yes, we've seen tornadoes this past weekend at 137 to 160 miles per hour. The strongest ones have been clocked at more than 200 miles per hour. Tornadoes can occupy tropical storms and hurricanes as they move onto land. Just a few minutes ago, one of you talked about hurricanes coming in off the coast, whether it be the Gulf Coast or the Atlantic coast. Hurricanes are spinning columns of air like this. The outlying bands of a hurricane spin off thunderstorms. The outlying bands of the hurricane are spinning off these violent thunderstorms. And inside that thunderstorm, they have tornadoes. Happens all the time. Water spouts that occur over water are also tornadoes. But those tornadoes form over warm water. Then water spouts form. Water spouts can move on shore and cause damage to coastal areas. I've seen water spouts move over to fishing boats, yachts, and pleasure craft and destroy them. Water spouts. Remember that. You may be in California. You may find yourself on the Atlantic coast. You may find yourself in Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, or Florida. And you may see a water spout. Be advised, if it is close to land, or even a water spout over a lake, you need to get to cover immediately, because that storm can cross water like butter on a hot pan. Water spouts can move on shore very rapidly and cause damage to coastal areas, whether it be over a river, a lake, or over the ocean. Water spouts are tornadoes and they cause damage. Now, we've seen water spouts and tornadoes develop year-round. Tornadoes can occur at any time of day, any time of the day of the year, any time of night as well. We need to have a plan of action before severe weather hits. We need to respond quickly. Why? Even yesterday on the air, Renee Steffi was putting out warnings for tornadoes. Renee Steffi is putting out warnings about tornadoes. We need to respond quickly when a warning is issued or a tornado is spotted. When conditions are warm, humid, and windy, or the skies are threatening, we need to understand one thing. What is that? Something can happen, and it can develop very rapidly. When the skies are humid, warm, and threatening, windy, monitor for severe weather or severe weather watches and warnings by listening to your television, your AM/FM weather radio that's tuned to a news talk station. Make sure if you are in a warning area or even a watch area that you tune your radios and televisions to a news talk station that will give you up-to-the-date information when weather changes like this and becomes deadly. Unreal. Besides the television, we talked about radio stations as well. You need to have one of these. This is an AM/FM weather radio. It has AM/FM frequencies, but it also has the weather frequencies built into this radio, where I can tune to weather frequency and find weather information on this radio immediately. These radios here don't cost that much money. They really don't. You can pick up an AM/FM weather radio for as little as $19.95. $19.95 at Walmart, Target, REI, or any other outdoor store. You can get these here. Okay? Consider doing that. You may want to have it as soon as possible. Richard Smith has his ham radio that's tuned to weather. He can tune it immediately to weather. My ham radio behind me is also tuned to weather channels. All I have to do is push a button and I can have my weather channel picked up. I also have a scanner, a police scanner here, where I can scan for police, fire, coastal, and airline frequencies. But I also have it programmed for the National Weather Service. All I have to do is punch a button, and I can have the National Weather Service booming over the speaker. Watch for severe weather. If you even think that you are in a severe weather area, turn on your AM/FM radio to News Talk station, because those News Talk stations are going to have the latest up-to-date information for whatever's going to happen. I don't need this. I've gone almost all day long without air here. I really don't need it here. Anyway, or not all day without air, but I don't have to have supplemental oxygen here. But folks, you can do this. Or you can have an AM/FM weather radio tuned already to the weather frequencies in your area. That way, all you have to do is punch a button. Punch a button. My radio is a digital radio. I have had analog radios as well. This is easy. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Get one of those weather radios. You can also log into weather.gov. Weather.gov here on the internet to get the weather information. Now again, what are nature's most violent storms? Thunderstorms, tornado, and lightning. Thunderstorms, tornadoes, and lightning. Okay? Weather radar that you've seen over on my buddy's Ryan Hall-Y'all's frequency on YouTube. Ryan Hall-Y'all has a weather channel on YouTube. I highly recommend it. Down below this video today in our program description, I have links to various channels on the internet, various apps on the internet that you can get disaster and emergency information from. Right below the most common government links are Ryan Hall-Y'all's channel. We can tune into him. His link is there. You might want to have that on a speed dial. By speed dial, I mean have it on a subscription basis with your YouTube channels. Be able to get his channel quickly. Okay? Now, we talked about weather radar. Weather radar. The National Weather Service has a Doppler radar network strategically located across our entire country and naturally across around the world. They have Doppler radar stations throughout the world. Okay? These Doppler radars can detect air movement toward or away from the radar. Now, while I'm talking about this, I don't like Doppler radar anymore. I really don't. Why is that? You might ask, why is that? Because, folks, what I've seen, let me see if I can pick up a picture this Doppler radar. Let me show you this picture. Folks, this is a Doppler radar station. My first time I ever saw this was in Denver, just east of Denver, at an International Guard station there in Aurora, Colorado. These are called golf balls or Doppler radar stations. What I've since learned about these Doppler radar stations, they attract weather. They attract weather. I'm not saying they look at weather. They do look at weather. But the electronic signals that the Doppler radar sends out seems to pull all the storms in. When it pulls all the storms in, what happens? We have what they call weather manipulation going on. Weather manipulation going on. Lately, during the past year or so, the storms that we've been seeing, not just hurricanes, but tornadoes as well, and thunderstorms. I believe we've had some weather manipulation. When they turn on these Doppler radar, they attract the storms in. And you can see a storm here on the left side of this slide here. That storm is inbound into that Doppler radar area. When you have a line of Doppler radars, what happens? It steers those storms along the side of the Doppler radar. Then we have a controlled area where we're sending storms, don't we? That's happened. We've seen it happen. Doppler radar can be good and it can be bad, because the elites of this society are manipulating weather. Fact. We've seen it happen. We've seen it happen. The National Weather Service has Doppler radar networks strategically located across and around this country and around the world. These Doppler radar setups can detect storms. They can detect air movement toward or away from the radar. Early detection of increasing rotation aloft within a thunderstorm can allow the severe warnings to go out. Early detection of these storms, increasing cloud rotation above the ground within the thunderstorm itself, can allow life-saving warnings to be issued before the tornado even forms. We've seen it. We've seen it. Now, does anybody have any questions so far about what we talked about? I want to make sure everybody understands what we've talked about so far. I know I've given you a lot of information. Sleeping Volcano is here in our chat tonight. God bless you, Sleeping Volcano. We appreciate you so much. Sleeping Volcano is saying that it is so good to see all of you here. Hit the thumbs up button and then subscribe. And then when you subscribe, also look for the little bell icon. Look for the little bell icon and click on it. When you click on that little bell icon, a drop-down menu of 3 items is going to come up. Click on the word ALL then. Clicking on that word ALL will get you subscribed and also notify you when we come on the air. Okay? Hurricane Heather, have a good night with your husband. Hurricane Heather's going out with her husband for dinner. That's so cool. Heather, give your husband a hug for us until I'm high. We appreciate him doing that for you. You deserve it. Hurricane Heather's been an active lady, giving us a lot of weather information, and also Renee Seppi. They've been giving us a lot of weather information. We appreciate them so much. Heather, have a good night. Enjoy and be safe. And have a great dinner. Now, folks, Linda Covington's given the Doppler radar notion a thumbs down. I agree. Doppler radar can also be dangerous, attracting and throwing out storms. Attracting and throwing out storms, making the storms more severe. We've seen it. But early detection of rotations of the winds aloft might save some lives here. They might save some lives. Putting out weather warnings. Weather warnings are issued before a tornado hardly even forms. Because radar can see the winds spinning while they're still up in the air where we may not see it on the ground. Then we see it on the ground as well. Some people, weather spotters, yes, I am a certified weather spotter myself. When I've seen storms spinning like this before they even hit the ground, I have called the National Weather Service and reported it. You can also become a weather spotter yourself. But be careful. Don't put yourself in danger. Don't put yourself in danger. Okay? Linda Covington is asking where these regional sites of these Doppler radar are. They're located everywhere. I'm sure where you live near Richmond, Virginia, there are Doppler radars all over the place. There are Doppler radar stations all over. They're near airports. They're near farms spread out up and down the landscape. Okay? Now, these Doppler radar also pick up the storms. They pick up the storms. They detect when strong rotation is taking place within the storm. Where the red colors were on this, let me bring up that slide again, showing the storms. I'm sorry, I don't remember where the slide is here. Right there. Okay? The Doppler radar picks up this information. Picks up the rotation of the winds. Okay? And the storm where red colors are moving, guess what? Winds moving away from the radar. Winds moving away from the radar. When there are green areas here, winds blowing toward the radar. The green areas are winds blowing towards the radar. These areas of green are very close together. That bottom corner there of the storm here that you see on this slide, that is called the hook echo. The hook echo appears when the radar has picked up the storm hitting the ground. The hook echo occurs when the radar's reflective data, the reflectivity of the data, shows a storm hitting the ground. A violent storm on the ground, picking up dust, dirt, and debris. That's what that hook echo is. So when you see the meteorologist, whether it be our buddy over here on YouTube, Ryan Holyall, or any other meteorologist that may be showing you weather, when he talks about the hook echo, that means that tornadoes hit the ground, picking up debris. Okay? Canadian Patriot One in Canada, one of my best friends. He said they have a Doppler radio station near him. Oh yeah. I know they're all over. They're literally everywhere. Okay? Now, we've seen violent storms all over the world. We've seen violent storms all around the world. I have, in fact, in past years, shown you pictures of violent storms hitting everywhere. Literally everywhere. Violent weather. Violent thunderstorms and violent tornadoes. We've shown it. We've shown it. Let me show you what a violent tornado looks like. A violent tornado looks like this. Just like this. It's on the ground. The tornado diameter can stretch anywhere from 100 feet to 5 miles long, 5 miles wide. That tornado over at London, Kentucky was over a mile wide. Over a mile wide. That was a very dangerous and destructive tornado. It destroyed homes, it destroyed buildings, and it killed 35 people. A violent tornado. Now, at this time, when this radar station picked up the tornado aloft in the radar, was also seen on the ground. It was also seen on the ground. That's why we have this picture right now. Now, before I go any further, let's talk about tornado fact or fiction. Tornado fact or fiction. Why do I want to do this? Because, folks, I want to make sure everybody is aware of everything that you need to know so you can be safe. Linda Vilcano is asking, is ham radio used just for a stationary or like home? Yes, you can have a ham radio station at your home. You can have a ham radio station at your home. You can also have a ham radio in your car. You can also have this handy talkie like I have. This handy talkie ham radio right here is almost as effective as a home-based ham radio station. Okay? Where you can transmit voice communications or even data across hundreds of miles. You can have mobile radios like this, or mobile radios in your car, or a ham radio base station at your home. Okay? Instigator is here. Thank you for being here, Instigator. Appreciate it. Please subscribe and also like what we're doing here. Subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. Now, let's talk about tornadoes, fact or fiction. First off, fiction. Lakes, rivers, and mountains protect areas from tornadoes. Wrong. Wrong. We've seen tornadoes, water spouts form over the lakes and rivers. We've seen it. Mountains don't protect anything. Mountains don't protect anything. When a tornado hits a mountainside, it doesn't dissipate. It just destroys everything in its path. Fact. No geographic location is safe from tornadoes. No geographic location is safe from a tornado. A tornado near Yellowstone National Park left a path of destruction up and down a 10,000-foot mountain. Up and down a 10,000-foot mountain. Fact. Fact. That is one reason that I've said that a tornado, when it hits a mountain, destroys everything in its path. Fiction. A tornado causes buildings to explode as a tornado passes overhead. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Fact. Violent winds and debris slamming into buildings cause most structural damage. Violent winds slamming into the side of buildings causes the most structural damage. That's a fact. Violent winds. Yes, tornadoes have violent winds, but it's not necessarily the tornado itself. Violent winds associated with that tornado can cause the implosion of buildings. Fact. Fiction. And I've been told this myself by many people. Fiction. Open windows before a tornado approaches to equalize pressure. Wrong. Stay away from windows. Get the heck away from windows. Leave the windows be. Do not open the windows. Fact. Virtually all buildings leak. Virtually all buildings leak. Leave the windows closed. Take shelter immediately. Leave the windows closed and take shelter immediately. An underground shelter, a basement, or a safe room are the safest places. An underground shelter, a basement, or a safe room are the safest places. If none of those options are available, go to a windowless interior room or hallway. Go to a windowless room or interior room or hallway. Stay away from the exterior walls. Stay away from your exterior walls. That will do you no good. That will absolutely do you no good. Fiction. Highway overpasses provide shelter from tornadoes. Wrong. Wrong. Highway overpasses or road overpasses will be anything under them will be sucked into the tornado, including the cars, or even trucks. We saw that happen this past Friday. Highway overpasses don't provide any shelter at all. None. Now, let's go back to these tornadoes again. I can move this most dangerous tornado over here to the right. I want to show these other tornadoes here. This one here in the middle here is a very strong tornado. The one on the right is a very dangerous storm. This rope tornado is the weakest tornado. Rope tornadoes are the weakest. 88% of all tornadoes, less than 5% of tornado deaths. Less than 5% of tornado deaths are these rope tornadoes. These rope tornadoes only last 1 to 10 minutes, maybe a little more. Sometime between 1 and 10 minutes, maybe a little more. Winds of these rope tornadoes are less than 110 miles an hour. Less than 110 miles an hour. Yes, these rope tornadoes can cause damage. Rope tornadoes can cause damage, but nothing like these other two will. This rope tornado produces an EF0 or an EF1 damage. They produce EF1, EF0 tornadoes. The strong tornado in the center. Strong tornadoes just like this are 11% of all tornadoes. 11% of all tornadoes. Nearly 30% of all tornado deaths. These strong tornadoes here may last 20 minutes or longer, with winds on an average of 111 miles an hour to 165 miles an hour. This strong tornado can produce an EF2 to an EF3 tornado. This can produce an EF2 to an EF3 tornado. What can happen? What can happen? With that storm on the far right, the storm on the far right can produce a tornado that's an EF4 to an EF5 tornado, causing severe damage and major fatalities. 88% of tornadoes are this major tornado that you see here on the right. 88%. Let's talk about a preparedness guide now. I want to give you an idea of what you need to do so that you can be safe. So that you have an idea what you can do to be safe and to make sure your family is safe as well. Kathy, you don't have to be dead at all. Not necessarily. Kathy, you can survive anything. You can survive anything. Let's talk about tornado safety right now. What I'm going to talk about is anything that could provide schools, your families, or your communities for safety. How do tornadoes form? Before thunderstorms develop, winds change direction and they increase in speed with altitude. The winds increase in speed with altitude. The high altitude winds are higher than on the surface. This creates an invisible horizontal spinning effect. It creates an invisible horizontal spinning effect in the lower atmosphere. Horizontal spinning effect. The rising air within the thunderstorm updraft tilts the rotating air. The rising air within the thunderstorm creates this updraft. The rotating air then, just like this, it's creating an updraft from horizontal to vertical. An area of rotation is about 2 to 6 miles wide. 2 to 6 miles wide. This extends through much of the storm. The tornado could be 2 to 6 miles wide and could extend through much of the storm. We've seen this on the ground, creating a lot of damage. Most tornadoes form within this area of strong rotation. Again, weak tornadoes are 88% of all tornadoes. Strong tornadoes, 11%. 70% of all tornado deaths were that tornado on the right, the very strong, deadly tornado. That deadly storm could also exceed an hour. Tornadoes can exceed an hour with wind speeds greater than 166 miles an hour. Produce that EF4, EF5 tornado. Fact. The area underneath the highway overpass is very dangerous. If you're in a vehicle, guys, what do you need to do? You should immediately seek shelter inside a sturdy building. As a last resort, if you are in a vehicle. You can either stay in the car with a seatbelt on, so you're not thrown all over the car. Put your head down below the windows. Put your head down below the windows. Why? Because if the glass implodes, you're going to be getting hit with glass in your face. Don't do it. Put your head down below the windows, covering with your hands and a blanket if possible. Cover your head with your hands or a blanket if possible. Or if you can safely get noticeably lower than the level of the windows, or even the level of the roadway. If you can get safely beneath the level of the roadway, exit your car and lie in that area. If you can get noticeably lower than the level of the roadway, exit your vehicle and lie in that area. Lie in that area. Cover your head with your hands. Your choice should be driven by your specific circumstances. Your choice in this matter should be driven by your specific circumstances. Fiction. Is it safe to take shelter in the bathroom, hallway, or a closet of a mobile home? Is it safe to take shelter in the bathroom, hallway, or a closet of a mobile home? No. We're talking mobile homes here. In a regular house, that would be the answer. But in a mobile home, it's not. Mobile homes are not safe. Mobile homes are not safe during tornadoes. Abandon your mobile home and seek shelter in a sturdy building immediately. Abandon your motorhome and seek shelter in a sturdy building. If you live in a motorhome or a mobile home, ensure you have a plan in place that identifies the closest sturdy buildings. Make sure you have a plan in place. Again, we're talking about an emergency preparedness plan. Make sure you have a plan in place that identifies the closest sturdy buildings. Now, preparedness. Preparedness is a continuous process. Preparedness is a continuous process here. We've talked about this before. Preparedness is a continuous process of planning, equipping, training, and exercising. Planning includes equipping, training, and exercising. And it's a continuous process. When you are putting together your emergency plan, think of those three things: equipping, training, and exercising your plan. Planning for tornadoes requires identifying a place to take shelter. Identifying a place to take shelter. Being familiar with and monitoring your community's warning system. Being familiar with and monitoring your community's warning system. Twice this past weekend. Some communities' warning system failed. Their siren system failed. The only warning they may have gotten is from the National Weather Service. The National Weather Service. Now, I've got some sobering news for you about that. I got me a tall glass of ice water earlier today. Anyway, the National Weather Service warning system failed this past 2 weeks. The National Weather Service was updating its warning system. They were updating the software on the warning system. So they shut off various states' warning systems. Shut it off. So nobody got any warnings at all. They shut it down so they could develop and update their system. But that system in Mississippi and Alabama and parts of Georgia have been shut down. But the National Weather Service in Florida had their station up. And they attempted to put the warning signals out. The National Weather Service in Florida attempted to still put the warnings out, even though those warning stations in these various states did not get it. They didn't get it. If they got anything, they got it through their televisions or radios, but not through the Weather Service radios on the ground. Radios like this. They didn't get the warning sirens either. Now, again, you need to be familiar with and monitor your community's warning system. Televisions and radios, guys, listen to television and radio stations that have news, weather, and sports, because they will be able to give you information about your own local area. Okay? Now, when I'm talking about people that are working, employers, think about families also. Employers and family heads, parents, may need to obtain additional equipment. You may need to obtain additional equipment and resources. Resources such as emergency supply kits, emergency planning like we have given you in the past months. Again, I want to remind you that this company here, Emergency Management Associates here on YouTube, has put this information out many times. You can find emergency planning information on some of our former videos here on YouTube. In the title of the program, when it says Emergency Preparedness Planning or just Preparedness Planning, go to that video and watch it. Go to that video and watch it. You'll find information about preparedness planning. If it's talking about emergency preparedness kits, go there and watch that program. You're going to need it. Anytime we have emergency preparedness talks here on YouTube, it usually is on Fridays. I made the exception tonight on Wednesday of the week to talk about tornadoes and planning, because we had an unforeseen development this past weekend where a lot of people were killed. 35 on Friday night alone. That's unheard of. But you people that have businesses, and you have people that work for you, managers and other employees, if you have families as parents, you may want to get extra equipment, i.e. emergency preparedness radios like this, AM, FM weather radios like this, and make sure your TVs and radios are tuned to news talk stations. If you have a weather radio, tune your weather radio to a local weather station and do it before an emergency happens. Make sure your radio is already tuned to a weather station in your local area before the emergency happens. That way, you're not fumbling around wondering where it is. Okay? Have a preparedness kit, a preparedness supply kit. We've talked about this many times. Put this also in your plan. Put this also in your plan. Okay? In addition, each member of your family and every person that works for you needs to be trained. You need to be trained. You need to exercise your plan. You need to exercise your plan. You have to have a drill. Drill the plan to death. Find out the bad parts of your plan and replace those parts of the plan. Your plan can be revised at any time. Your emergency preparedness plan can be revised at any point in time. You can't return to life. Once someone dies, you can't return to life. Exercise your plan. Exercise your plan. That way everybody knows what's going to happen when you have an emergency. And they know how to act and what to do. Exercising your plan will make sure or give you a good certainty that you're going to survive whatever happens. Okay? That's why we talk about what we're doing here. It's to ensure that your family members are familiar with the plan and what to do in the event of a tornado. Planning. Like I said earlier on this program, identify shelter locations. An underground area such as a basement or a storm cellar. That provides the best protection from a tornado. If you're if you don't have an underground shelter available, consider the following. Tornado safety. Inside the innermost part of your home, not in a mobile home, but a regular home, or the inside of a local business, away from the windows, a hallway, a bathroom, inside of a building, not on an exterior wall, in the center of the building or in the center of your home, in a hallway. And if necessary, and if you have the time, grab a mattress off the bed and pull it over the top of you to protect you from anything that flies around you. It might hit you. Okay? Look out for lightning. Look out for lightning. That's the other reason you don't want to be anywhere near a window. Lightning can go through glass. Lightning can still kill you. Lightning can kill you. What causes lightning? The rising air in a thunderstorm. The rising air in a thunderstorm cloud causes various types of frozen precipitation to form within the cloud. Including these precipitation types are very small ice crystals and very large pellets of ice and snow. Those pellets of ice and snow develop. The smaller ice crystals are carried upward toward the top of the clouds, by the rising air. The smaller ice crystals are carried upward towards the top of the cloud by the rising air, while the heavier, denser pellets are either suspended by the rising air or they start falling towards the ground. What happens then? Collisions occur between the ice crystals and the pellets. Okay? Collisions occur between the ice crystals and the pellets. And these collisions serve as purpose. These collisions occur between the ice crystals and the pellets, and they serve as a charging mechanism for the thunderstorm. Positive and negative ions. Positive and negative electrons. Okay? Of the storm. The small ice crystals become positively charged while the pellets become negatively charged. Remember this. The small ice crystals become positively charged while the pellets become negatively charged. As a result, the top of the cloud becomes something else. It becomes positively charged. And the middle to the lower part of the storm becomes negatively charged. And what happens? Then you have a problem. Then you have a real problem. Lightning. At the same time, the ground underneath the cloud becomes charged oppositely of the charges directly overhead. The ground gets charged differently than it's getting charged up above in the clouds. When the charge difference between the ground and the cloud becomes too large. When the charge between the ground and the cloud becomes too large. A conductive channel of air develops between the cloud and the ground. A conductive channel of air develops between the cloud and the ground. You may not see it, you may not feel it. Some people do. Some people can feel it. But that conductive channel of air develops between the cloud and the ground. And a small amount of charge, a stepladder, occurs moving towards the ground. Lightning. That step leader is lightning moving towards the ground. When it nears the ground, an upward leader of opposite charge connects with the step leader. And the instant this connection is made, a powerful discharge occurs between the cloud and the ground. Between the cloud and the ground. Then we have lightning between the cloud and the ground. What happens when it's between cloud to cloud? One cloud becomes negative and the other is positive. And when that channel gets anywhere near the other, it creates that cloud to cloud lightning. That's what happens. That's what happens. I don't know anybody that really realizes that except for meteorologists. Except for meteorologists. When that connection is made, a powerful discharge between the cloud and the ground or the cloud and the cloud hits. Then we have lightning. We see this discharge as a bright visible flash of lightning. A bright visible flash of lightning. Similar to what we would see when we have a ground fault or two electrical wires that meet that are oppositely charged. Same thing happens. The same thing happens. Now, when we see lightning, when we have notice of a lightning storm, yes, sometimes our meteorologists at the television and radio stations are specifically saying that we have a weather storm, a lightning storm, a lightning warning. Seek an interior room or hallway on the lowest floor as possible. On the lowest floor as possible. Stay away from doors, stay away from windows, and stay away from outside walls. Stay away from doors, stay away from windows, and stay away from outside walls. Stay in the center of the room. Avoid corners of the building. Avoid corners of the building because they attract debris. If necessary, you have the basement, go in the corner of the basement. That will be your safest place. Rooms constructed with reinforced concrete brick or block with no windows and a heavy concrete floor or roof system overhead are probably your best bet. Rooms constructed with reinforced concrete, brick or block, or a roof system overhead are the best places to be. Avoid auditoriums. Avoid cafeterias. Avoid gymnasiums that have flat, wide span roofs, because those flat roofs will collapse. Those flat roofs will collapse. Linda Covington is talking in the chat about her grandfather that had several lightning storm rods attached to the house and barns. That's the case here. On every building around me has these small 3 to 4 inch lightning rods spaced variously across the roof of the building. Lightning rods. We see lightning rods on the tops of major buildings, skyscrapers, churches and such. Okay? But stay away from auditoriums, stay away from cafeterias and gymnasiums that have flat, wide roofs. Personnel should also be aware that what to do if you're caught outdoors. What do you do when you're caught outdoors? When a tornado is threatening? Seek shelter in a basement or of a sturdy building. Seek shelter in a basement or a sturdy building. If one is not within walking distance, try to drive in a vehicle, using a seatbelt to the nearest shelter. Drive to the nearest shelter. Don't drive towards a tornado. Do not drive towards a tornado. If possible, you see a tornado going towards your shelter, go the opposite direction. Go the opposite direction. Drive in a safe manner. Drive in a safe manner. Obey safety laws, but be very careful if you run any stoplights or stop signs. Be careful. I do not want you to be violating the law. Do not violate the law, but drive quickly away from the storm. If flying debris is encountered while in a vehicle, there are two options. Staying in the vehicle with a seatbelt on keeping your head below the windows and covering it with your hands or a blanket. If there is an area which is noticeable lower than the roadway, lie in that area and cover your head with your hands. Now, what if a tornado occurs? Develop a system for knowing who's in the building, who's in your home. Develop that system and practice it. Do not take it for granted that you might know who's in the building or what's in the building. Make sure you know who's in the building at all times. Establish an alarm system to warn workers or family members. Establish an alarm system to notify family members or work employees. Test your system frequently. Test your emergency plan frequently. Test or drill your emergency plan frequently. I said that 3 times. That's important. That's important. Develop plans to communicate warnings to your personnel or family members. Develop plans, communication warnings. Communication warnings. You may also have to worry about people with disabilities, people that might not see anything, people that might not hear something, people who don't speak English. Find out ways to communicate with them. Account for everyone in your home or your business. Don't forget anyone. Account for visitors, customers, friends and neighbors that have arrived at your home or that have arrived at your business. Go to a shelter immediately if possible. Go to a shelter immediately if possible. If you have a business, develop a roster or a checklist. Take a head count. Take a head count. If you're with your family, you know how many people are in your home. Count heads. Count heads. Make sure everyone is in the safest place that's possible, away from the exterior walls and away from windows, in a hallway or a bathroom. Assign specific duties to employees or family members in advance. Again, that's why you have a preparedness plan. Assign the workers or your family members specific responsibilities. Create checklists with these responsibilities. Designate and train everyone. Designate and train everyone in case one person or another is not there or becomes injured, because everyone needs to know how to exercise a plan. Everyone there will have a chance to survive. Some families, homes, and businesses are required to have an emergency action plan. Yes, some people's homes are required to have a plan. That's by communities. That's in communities. Make sure you know the requirements. Make sure you're completely aware of your emergency preparedness plan. Do we have any questions here? Do I have any questions from anyone here? I know I spent a lot of time showing you slides. I spent a lot of time explaining everything. I want to make sure we've answered all your questions. Linda Covington says dogs bark. Pay attention to your dogs. Pay attention to your dogs. Your dogs will save your life. Fact. Fact. Dogs will save your life. Any questions? If you have any questions, if you have any questions at all, please let me know. I will be more than happy to answer questions. Send them to me in my email. Send your questions to me in my email. Also, you can put your questions underneath this program tonight in the comments area. After this program is over, you can go to the comments area and put your questions there, and I will answer your questions. I promise you that. Arnold Smith is asking, brother, are you talking about capacitance differential? When I talked about the positive and negative electrons in the storm. Yes, you could have capacitance differential in that air column. You could possibly have capacitance differential in that air column. Don Patoka says, if your plan is to tuck your head between your legs, it may result in an undesired outcome. You're right. You're right. Don't put your head in the sand. Do not put your head in the sand, because then you're avoiding the inevitable. You're just avoiding the inevitable. You're going to get killed. Don't do it. Don't do it. Does anybody have any questions here? I know I've gone over a lot of information during the last hour and a half. I have. It's almost 2 hours now. Please also, folks, before you leave tonight, give us a thumbs up. And make sure you're still subscribed to our program. YouTube keeps unsubscribing people. If you're here and you're subscribed to this program, great. Check and make sure you're still subscribed. Because this venue doesn't do it. They unsubscribe people, unfortunately. Any other questions? I see people giving us some hearts. I appreciate that more than you know. That means a lot. Lena Vilcosta is great info to rewatch. Absolutely. Please rewatch this program. I understand many people watch this program and go away. Tonight's program will save lives. Tonight's program will save lives, brothers and sisters. It will. We're trying to save lives here. That's why we have this channel. Yes, we do talk about emergencies and disasters all the time. But rewatching this program is going to save lives. I promise you that. We will save lives. Okay? All right. Yeah, Linda Company says don't fly any kites during the storm. Yeah, that's not a good idea. Not a good idea. Now, this is the end of the program. At the end of our program, we try to talk about something spiritual and uplifting. Again, I've gone to the scriptures here. I've gone to the scriptures because this will give us some understanding as well. I've gone to Timothy, the first chapter. Timothy, the first chapter, verses 8 and 9 especially. It says, but we know that the law is good if a man use it lawfully. If a man use it lawfully, law is good. Knowing this, that the law is not made for righteous man. The laws are not made for righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and for sinners, for unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers and mothers, murderers of mothers, or manslaves. And goes on and on. The Apostle Paul talks on and on about what these people do. In verse 11, according to the glorious gospel of the blessed God, which was committed to my trust. And I thank Christ Jesus our Lord, who hath enabled me that he counted me faithful, putting in me into the ministry. Brothers and sisters, I'm part of that ministry. No, I am not an apostle. I'm not an apostle, but I deliver information. I deliver information. I am a servant of the Lord Jesus Christ. Please, folks, take us seriously. Watch this program again and again and again. Take notes. Take notes. You're not going to find this information just one or two places. As I said before, I spent years gathering this information. Years and years. Carol sometimes has looked at my computer. She's blown away about what I have, the information I've stored here. As I said, I'm writing a book. I want to be prepared. I want everybody else also to have the information so that you all can be prepared as well. And you can save yourselves. You can save yourselves. Yes, I'm trying to help you as well. But together we can save ourselves, our families. That's what's most important. Share this information. Share the spiritual thoughts. Help your families understand who God is. And God hears and answers prayers. God hears and answers prayers. I know that. Lama's Light says she likes my orange shirt. Someone told me a while back that my orange shirt, imagine them being around a jail. Yeah, sometimes jailers or sheriffs use orange clothing to depict criminals. Incredible. Incredible. Speaking of criminals, you all heard about a jailer, a maintenance person in the jail in Louisiana. Guess what? That person in the jail helped those 10 prisoners in Louisiana escape. And 4 of them now have been retrieved. 4 of them have been put back into custody. But 6 who are murderers and rapists, whoremongers, are still out on the street. And we need to get those people off the street. Yesterday, guess what? Another jail in California. A jail in California released some prisoners. Not physically release them, but the prisoners escaped. Newsom is responsible for that. Governor Idiot is responsible for that. Incredible. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you and love you very much. Please take care of each other and also be advised, tomorrow night we're going to be talking about earthquakes and things around the volcanoes in the Pacific Northwest, and earthquakes up and down the entire Pacific Basin on the east side of the Pacific, the Western Canada and the Western United States. That's what we're going to be doing tomorrow night. Please, if you want to, please write stuff down if you see it, or send me information so we can talk about it tomorrow night. Lama's Light said, why would a jailer help them escape? Because they're getting something out of it. They're getting something out of it. Several people from the Louisiana jail are now in custody. Several of the people from the Louisiana jail are now in custody. Incredible. Incredible. Lena Bill Constance, love you back. Blessings to you all. I agree. Blessings to everybody that's here and everybody that watches this program. God be with you. God be with you this day and always. God be with you until we meet again. We'll see you at the end of everything. See you tomorrow. If anything happens tonight or in the morning, we will be back on the air to talk about it as soon as the information becomes available. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow night sometime after 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Good night, everyone. Much love.